Welcome to another edition of Swim Easy Speed. Today we're going to look at the 2022 Kona swim and look at kind of the tempos of all the female pros. So here's the very start. You can see kind of it's a pretty wide, they spread across the start line fairly wide, but then very quickly two distinct groups start to form. And then within a minute, you're already starting to see a gap between Lucy Charles and the rest of the field. And basically the pointy end right here, it looks like Lauren Brandon. But that's about the gap. So within a minute, that's how much it is opened up in the gap. And look, that's going to be the biggest gap that opens up in that shorter period of time all day long. So when we look at tempo, so we're going to look at Lucy Charles here. At the very beginning, she's at about 1.2. So that's pretty high. It's about 95 strokes a minute. The chase group right here is 1.3 to 1.7, so somewhere between 75 and 90 strokes a minute. The gap is about the same, about a minute 40 in. It's starting to widen just a little bit, but not by much. Lucy's still got a fairly high stroke rate. Stroke looks pretty connected. Kick is relaxed at this point. She's got a little bit of a kick, but not much. And mainly just kind of driving a shoulder-driven stroke. So you can see here, she's starting to get beat up by the swell a little bit. It was pretty choppy last year. She's ranging anywhere from 1.2 to 1.3. By about 35 minutes in, so 2/3 of the way through, her tempo's dropped to about 1.5. One of the things, and then here's Lauren Brandon. She's been a pretty steady 1.7 or 70 strokes a minute from start to finish. Doesn't change. She is just like a metronome. Here's the gap at, basically 80% of the way through the race. And that's how long it's taken to, kind of double, triple what the original gap was in the first minute. Here you can see Lucy's at 1.5. She doesn't look as connected as she did at the start of the race. You can tell she's getting pretty tired. And that's one of the things. If you're gonna swim a high tempo stroke, you need to do the training to support a high tempo stroke. So I hear a lot of triathlon coaches talk about, you want a high tempo stroke, especially in rough water. Well, if you haven't done the training, all you're going to be doing is robbing fitness from the bike and the run. So as you saw, that gap eventually right there ended up being about 41 seconds. The gap between the chase group and the next group is about almost 3 minutes, almost 4 minutes from Lucy. Their tempos range from about 1.3 to 1.8. So again, a fairly wide range that is successful. And that's what you're going to see with most athletes is there's going to be a wide range of tempos that work. But if you're going to try to go faster, you better put in the training to support it. So again, here's Lauren Brandon, 1.7, 70 strokes a minute. She's just steady all the way through. As we kind of get closer to the finish, here's Lucy Charles again. You can see she's at 1.5, about 80 strokes a minute. That's what she's kind of settled into, what her fitness is allowing kind of her to be at. And then here's kind of the rest of the group. They've pretty much stayed the same throughout the whole race. And they ended up being, like I said, about 41 seconds back from Lucy by the finish. And the one thing you always want to think about is, you got to train for the race. And the one thing that we start to see and what we'll see on this next shot, with a lot of the pros, even at the end, is that they're looking tired. Their stroke is looking a lot more beat up. They're looking a lot more disconnected than when they did at the start. And, look, it's the demands of a 2.4 mile swim. And, you got to train for it. And a lot of times, it's tough because you got to train for a 112-mile bike and a marathon. So, as always, thank you for tuning in, and hope to see you back in the pool soon.